What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about a game that I cannot stop playing on my Nintendo Switch. It just came out recently, and that is Dead by Daylight. Now, for those of you who don't know what Dead by Daylight is, it is a survival horror game that is multiplayer in every way, shape, and form. It is asymmetric, so one person will play as a killer who hunts down all the survivors, and four people will play as those survivors who are being hunted down. And if you're a survivor, you work with your teammates to try and escape the killer, or if you are the killer, you will work to kill all the survivors. It's a very fun game, and a lot of people are going to compare it to the Friday the 13th game. And there are similarities in the sense that it's an asymmetric horror game, but there are many differences. In that game, for example, you are going to be fighting back against the killer if you were a survivor, where in Dead by Daylight there is no fighting back against the killer. You are meant to avoid them and try to escape, and if you are found, you are meant to run like hell and try to lose them. It is very fun. So there are some similarities between the two games, but they are very different in their own ways, and I will get into that a little further as I explain the game. Now, I have played this game before. I played this game on PC in the past, and I've always been a pretty big fan of it. It's a game that you can just kind of turn on, play a couple games, and just have a good time with. You don't really have to know a whole lot about what's going on to understand like how to play the game and to actually enjoy yourself. Like, my girlfriend loves watching me play Dead by Daylight because it's just a simple game that you could sit down and watch and understand exactly what's happening. It's just very fun, very easy to get, but hard to master. But yeah, Dead by Daylight's just a super easy game to pick up and play. And I've noticed throughout my time playing the game that, God, I am bad. I'm not good at the game. But I've had such a good time with it. And it's such a fun game that you can just keep playing regardless of the situation. If you're bad, you'll get better. And it's so fun to just keep playing. And it just, especially now in October where it's spooky out and it's like, this is a great game for the Halloween season. Now, like I said, Dead by Daylight is an asymmetric horror game. An asymmetric meaning that four people play on a team as the survivors and one person plays as the killer, and this means that there are two separate ways to play this game. So first I'll cover the survivors. When you're playing as a survivor, like I said earlier, you are meant to work with your team to escape the killer and run like hell if you are found. Every map is different that you will play on in Dead by Daylight, and scattered throughout the map there are these generators. And the point is to basically get 5 generators turned on, which will then allow you to open 2 gates on the map and escape the killer. Now, unlike the killer who has to play in a first-person perspective, survivors play in a third-person perspective. And that might seem like an unfair advantage, but I will cover more on why the killer's playing first-person once I get to that part of the gameplay. But this allows the survivors to look around the map and see what's coming at them before they get stabbed in the back. Moving on to the killers in this game, there are a ton of different killers in this game, each with their own unique abilities and playstyles. And this is what makes it very different from Friday the 13th, where you'll only play as Jason Voorhees. You play as a variety of different killers in Dead by Daylight, and they're all very unique, and they just play so differently from one another that it's not the same thing over and over and over. For example, the Huntress, she throws hatchets which can take down survivors from afar, or if you play as the Hag, you can set down traps on the ground that when a survivor walks over them, you could teleport to them. It's just a bunch of different ways that you can go about playing the game, and it makes it very unique. Now, like I said, killers play in a first-person perspective, which you might find odd considering the survivors see in third-person, meaning they can see more of what's going on around them. However, killers are much faster than survivors, so even if a survivor sees them coming, they can still catch up to that survivor if they decide to run away. Now, there are things survivors can use like pallets and stuff that can stun the killer and block a path, and you can break these and continue your pursuit. But overall, the killers are just far superior in terms of speed and ways to get around the map than survivors are. Now, you may be wondering how you find the survivors if you're playing killer. Well, you can actually see highlights, red highlights of all the generators in the area. So you can go and check each generator to find if a survivor is working on it. And as a killer, you have a heartbeat. So if a survivor is working on the generator you're checking and they decide to take off and run the other direction, you can actually see claw marks in the ground and that you can track to use to find the survivors that have run away from you, and it helps the killer find their targets despite being able to only see it from a first-person view. And it's a really cool way to play a game. It's just I don't know how many games are actually out like this, but I think it's very unique and very cool, and Dead by Daylight is one of the few that I've actually seen with this format. Now, once you successfully knock down a survivor, what your goal is at that point is to pick up the survivor and put them on a hook. You'll have to actually hook a survivor 3 times before they're actually eliminated from the round, and this is how you actually accumulate points as a killer. You just simply walk around trying to get as many people on a hook as possible, but don't be a dick and stand in front of a hook and like babysit the person you've hooked, because it's no fun, and you actually aren't going to earn as many points if you just go out and find another person to put on a hook. It's a very boring way to play, but a lot of people actually do it, and it drives me nuts. So yeah, that's the basics of playing Dead by Daylight. Now, each character is very unique in their own way. Like I said, the killers have their own abilities. However, there are actually perk trees that you can put points into that you'll accumulate through playing games, and this can unlock new perks for your characters. And actually, as you level up certain characters, because they all have unique perks, you can unlock teachable perks that you can use on other killers or other survivors, and it's a really cool way to motivate you to level up more than just one character and not be a one-trick pony in this game. You have to actually play a bunch of different things to get all the perks that you need to make yourself the best player possible. Along with perks, survivors also have items like medkits and flashlights that they can use throughout the round to help them escape the killer, and it's just a ton of different ways to build your kind of play style as you're playing Dead by Daylight and really change your overall experience with what you're doing. It's a really fun game, and I cannot stress enough how addictive it is. I have been playing it non-stop since I bought it. My girlfriend texts me every day when I'm coming over. It's like, hey, we gonna play Dead by Daylight? Like, it's such just a good game to sit back and relax at the end of the day and play. And that seems kind of crazy because it is a horror game, but I mean, aside from the like horror aspects of it, there are very few moments where you'll actually like jump as a result of playing this game. There are a couple scary moments, like Michael Myers is a killer in this game, and one of his abilities is he stalks you. So if you're working on a generator and all of a sudden you turn around and Michael Myers is just staring at you, yeah, that's kind of fucking scary. But aside from that, it's not a super scary game. It's more just kind of learning the ropes and then playing each scenario based on what killer you're up against or what survivors you're up against. It's just a really good game. Now, this game does have microtransactions. However, the microtransactions in this game do not bother me that much. And I will say that because the game itself is $40 on Nintendo Switch. And it includes a lot of the characters that are actually DLC characters on PC and other systems. So you get quite a bit for the $40 you're spending. Now, there are other killers like Michael Myers and the Pig that are only available through DLC. I think they're like $5 a piece, so it's really not that much if you want to play those killers, but you don't have to. You don't have to buy them, and it's everything else in the store is all cosmetic stuff, so none of it really forces you to spend money in this game. It really just comes down to if you want to play a certain killer or a certain survivor. But other than that, the microtransactions are just there for, like I said, cosmetic reasons. Like, you can get really cool costumes for your characters, and I'm likely going to be indulging in some of those because there are some really cool costumes for my favorite killer, the Hag. Now we have to talk about the obvious elephant in the room. How does it run on Nintendo Switch? And honestly, it doesn't run horrible. I know in the trailers that they released for it and the gameplay demos they released for it, it didn't look too promising. It looked like it was going to be a buggy mess, and there have been some bugs. However, the directors and developers have already addressed the bugs for the game on Switch, and they have released patch notes showing the hot fixes that they will be putting out for them. Aside from that, the graphics in the game, they aren't the best, and this game is a powerhouse of a game. Like, my old PC, I had a fairly decent gaming PC. It struggled to run some of the graphics in Dead by Daylight. My new gaming laptop runs it fairly well, but it is a very graphically intense game. So to get it to run on the Switch, I'm sure they had to just downgrade everything. It basically looks like you're playing it on PC on the lowest settings possible. But aside from that, the game plays at a solid 30 frames at all times. I have had zero problems playing this game with frame drops or anything like that. It has been just a pretty smooth process for the most part. There are obviously like disconnects and stuff, but that has nothing to do with graphics or anything shutting the game down. It's just people being dickheads and leaving the game. Now, in terms of where it's best to play Dead by Daylight on the Nintendo Switch, whether it be a Nintendo Switch Lite or the standard Nintendo Switch, honestly, it plays great on both. I've played it docked at my girlfriend's house so she can watch, and I've played it on the go in class with my Nintendo Switch Lite, and it plays great on both. Now, I will say that it does look slightly better on the Nintendo Switch Lite, but that's just because it's less particle dense. But overall, it plays great on both. So if you have a Nintendo Switch Lite and that's all you have, I'd still recommend picking up Dead by Daylight on it because it's just a great game and it runs well. And your performance isn't going to be hindered by not having access to a controller or a bigger monitor. Like, it just plays fine anywhere you want to play it. So if you are a standard Nintendo Switch guy or if you're a Nintendo Switch Lite guy, I recommend this game. And this brings up the question because of how Dead by Daylight runs on the Nintendo Switch. Are people more willing to play games on the go with the Nintendo Switch at the cost of downgraded graphics, especially with things like The Witcher 3 coming out that obviously have downgraded graphics to play on Nintendo Switch? Are people more willing to sacrifice their graphics to play things on the go and have that convenience factor? That is a question that we are actually going to be bringing up in our podcast that we are starting later this week. Me and a buddy of mine are starting a podcast called What to Play, which I will link in the description below. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, be sure to go over there and subscribe. But yeah, that pretty much covers everything I have for you guys today in terms of Dead by Daylight. This is such a good game, and it's perfect for this time of year. Halloween, spooky season, right around the corner. I cannot recommend this game enough. So if you like this video, be sure to leave a like and smash that subscribe button. And all my other social media should be on the screen somewhere here. But thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.